welcome to Rise, Heal, and Grow. I'm Leah M. Hill. This show is a podcast production of Apollo Sunrise Center, which is a health, wellness, and spiritual retreat center in Merrimack, Massachusetts. On this show, we shine the light on those who nurture wellness and inspire positive change. And my guest today definitely inspires positive change. She is all about changing your life. My guest today is Amanda Greaves. She is an author, a speaker, and an alignment coach. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you, Leah. It's great to be here.
Thanks for being here,
Absolutely.
too. So your book is called, I'll show it, The Chameleon Diaries.
Yeah.
I'm going to show this. And it's Designing a Life Worth Changing For. Look at that. That's a beautiful cover.
Yeah.
I want to learn all about this book because I know the way that you wrote it is a little bit different from your typical self-help, your typical novel. It's maybe a little of both, a little memoir, a little of something. So tell us about the book.
It's, well, thank you very much for having me as a guest. I really am honored to be here. And the Chameleon Diaries, it's a memoir and guide to self-discovery. And the premise of it is, I guess in the foreword is meant for you.
Okay.
Who you've been, who you are now, and who you want to become. And it's all the old yous that make up the current you and all the new ones that are going to happen in the future. And I wrote it because as I was going through some of the situations that are in the book, I didn't feel as if I had a mentor, a coach, a guide to go to. And I felt lonely and alone going through some of those situations. And I wrote the book with the full intention of whoever's reading it, if they're going through anything similar, they know they're not alone.
Wow. That's so important because we think about, you know, with the internet and all the information we have, oh, if you want to know something, you know, just go on the internet or, you know, go watch a YouTube video or something. But your experience was deeply personal and it wasn't just like a one-day thing. It was over a period of time. And so you really couldn't find anyone that could support you in the way that you needed.
No, when you think about it, 30-something years ago, if you had to go to therapy, there was something wrong with you.
Right.
And that was, you know, faux pas, touche. You know, you didn't go to therapy. It wasn't a normal thing for people to be doing, whereas now it's streamlined, if you will.
Yes.
And when I was going through some of the things that I was challenging myself with, if you will, it was difficult to know which direction to turn in. And as you accumulate different habits and patterns over the course of the years, you start to go down certain pathways.
Right.
And I got to a point where all those pathways converged, and I realized I needed to make some seriously different decisions.
Wow. And then this is kind of what happened at one, like you came to maybe a pivotal moment or something that told you, okay, time to make a decision. I got to do something different here.
Yeah, it was. And the pivotal moment happened. It was, now mind you, it wasn't like a thunderstorm that just comes out of nowhere. It was a building process, if you will.
Right.
But the pivotal moment was at the end of 2022 when I found out the guy that I had been dating, granted, it was an emotionally abusive relationship, and he was very much a narcissist. But
I'm sorry.
It's okay. At the end, it's okay. But I found out that I was the other woman, and he had a girlfriend the entire time we were together, and so that was the end of that.
Yeah.
And then the following morning, I got an email from my biggest client stating that he had hired a new designer and was canceling all of our contracts.
Oh my God.
Which was 50% of my projected revenue for 2023.
Oh my God.
Which was huge. The next morning.
Right, the next morning.
You can imagine the tailspin that I went into. I was like, oh my God. And I started to realize that things like that and that kind of capacity don't necessarily just happen to you. They happen for you in a way that is almost shining a light on the areas of your life that you maybe should adjust a little bit, or there's an opportunity for change if you're capable and willing to see the message and hear the message that's been put in front of you.
Exactly. And then like when too, because, you know, when something like that happens, that dramatic, you know, and two big things and happening one day, then the next morning, and then you're in a state of shock. Like how were you even able to get beyond the shock part, because in order to then start thinking, well, maybe I should change my life, it's like you got to give yourself some time, right? Just to respond or react first, right?
And like I said, there was a leading up to it. So it wasn't all big surprises, but there were aspects where I had started doing healing years and years prior.
Yeah.
And part of that healing process, if you will, opened me up to the opportunity of love once again. And as an empath, this man came into my life, and as a narcissist, he could see all of the energy that he was able to utilize from me, just suck out of me. And so I fell into it, because I don't think anybody willingly goes into a relationship with a narcissist. No. And as I worked through a lot of the healing process while I was trying to get out of it, and I started to understand, there's a phrase that I use, that people use, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Right.
And so what was happening in my personal life was overlapping in my professional life, and vice versa. And I started to get sick, physically sick.
Oh, wow.
My relationships with my family and some of my friends were challenging at best. And I didn't have control over my business. Yeah. So when that particular event happened at the end of 2022, I took a big step back and decided to write the book.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine that you were actually able to do that. I mean,
it took a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, I would call that like the dark night of the soul.
Pretty much.
It's really the dark. It's like when the universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, just wipes everything away all at once. It's like you had this full life, this full plate, and then all of a sudden you have a clean slate, and you're going, oh my God, what do I do now?
Well, it wasn't so much a clean slate. I mean, I had started my design business in 2010. Okay. So, fast forward 12, 13 years later, it's thriving.
So this is interior design.
Interior design.
Clarify, interior design. Okay.
It's what I went to school for. It's what I've been doing for 20 years. But prior, for 3 to 4 years leading up to this event, I was tired. I wasn't fully involved in what was going on in my company. I was working in a job that I had created for myself, and I wasn't feeling the levels of fulfillment that I had assumed or that I had planned on by being a business owner, by having all this freedom and flexibility. And it, like that clean slate, it's been muddied for quite some time. I feel like now it's actually just getting to the point of it's nice and clean now.
Oh, wow.
And, this is a couple years later, because there's a lot of work that's been happening since that particular moment in time, through the book, after the book.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So let's say, you're in this point now, you have this awareness of what's really going on, the ending of this big relationship that you had, as well as a big relationship with the client that you had. And then you said, okay, I need to, at some point, I'm out of here. Where do I start? I need to start over. What do I do? And so this idea came to you to write a book about it. Is that?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Prior to all of this, I'd gone hiking with a group of friends of mine, and we're all getting to know each other. We're neighbors. And one of them says, geez, Amanda, you've lived such an interesting life. Blah, 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 blah. And I said, I'm thinking I'm going to write a book one day and then take the show on the road. And that statement has stuck with me since that hike in November. I think that was in 2021. And when all the nonsense happened, I said, forget it. And I was very, very thankful and very fortunate that a woman had been working with me for over 10 years. And I said, listen, I need some space. I need some time. She took control of the company. It was fantastic.
Oh yeah. Wow, what a blessing.
It was a blessing. Wow. We had a really great relationship, a great arrangement. And that gave me that freedom and that space to go out and write the story, write the book. And I threw everything I had into it and really buckled down in May of 2023.
Yep.
Because it took some time to arrange what was going to happen with the interior design business, and wrote it in 9 months.
Oh my goodness.
and then published it in February of 2024.
Oh my goodness. That's like unheard of.
It went fast. I had a lot of help. It wasn't
Okay.
just me. And by help, I mean I enlisted in a few different companies that were really significant in preparing me and helping me get organized.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my publishing company was great. So it was
Great.
excellent.
So tell us about the structure of your book. I wanted to get into, like, it's not just a memoir that we would read, right? So you had some intention in that.
I did, and it starts with the story I just told about December 2022, and then it goes into, and then it fast rewinds back to, let's call it 8th grade.
Oh,
And then it starts to build on how I became me. The stories, the situations, the events, the people, the places, all the things. And as I was writing, I started to uncover some ridiculous patterns. Things that I'd been doing my whole life I didn't even know. And so these stories, the writing of the actual book was incredibly cathartic for me.
Right.
And while I was doing it, I was journaling the whole time beyond organizing the stories. And I thought, well, if this is a Chameleon Diaries, about all the different faces and places and styles and characters that I've been in my life.
Right.
And I'm journaling while I'm doing this because there's a lot coming up for me. I ended up putting a Dear Diary section at the end of each chapter that is a little reflection on the story that was just told.
Okay. So it's a part of your life, like the story that's told is a part of your life of what you experienced.
Yep.
And then at the end of the chapter, it's something for the reader to put themselves into or to reflect
Either
on.
put themselves into, or the message is really, you may recognize parts of yourself in the characters of this particular story. Whether it's an abusive relationship, or you wish somebody would just listen to you, or you thought you were meant to go and do something else and you ended up going this way per the advice of someone.
Right.
And they're overlapping stories with a lot of different people in a lot of different areas of life. But I just talked with somebody last night and they said, I'm going through reading the chapters and then I'm making sure that I do the Dear Diary. I said, what about it is making you want to do those? He says, your stories make sense to me.
Wow. So they're relevant, and it's not just, this is my story, this is what happened to me, but you're actually taking pieces that probably would, or maybe trigger someone or incite someone into something that they, want to change in their own life, or a pattern that they're waking up to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And oftentimes we don't see those patterns.
Yeah. Oh no, we never do when we're in it.
No,
right?
we never do when you're in it.
We have
It's
to get out of
terrible.
it. That's where the journaling comes in. The
Yeah.
journaling's helpful because that's when you come back and you look at it and you go, wow, I've been, this is like the same relationship, different person, but the same thing throughout
well,
my
that's
life.
just it. I kept attracting the same unavailable man, just in different shapes and sizes and forms.
That's what we do until we learn. So this is the process of self-discovery, which is what you went through.
Exactly.
So I'm really interested in that concept because a lot of people think of, well, okay, so the chameleon can change its colors, can change how it looks, can mold and adapt to its environment.
Yeah.
But where's the core? Where's the part that doesn't change? Is that the self-discovery?
That's the self-discovery, but that's what I have now evolved into my teachings. That's what a lot of my teachings are about. And when I say teachings, it's more guidance in a coaching realm. And there are lots of times where we walk around with a set of values that don't necessarily serve us now, and they may not even belong to us.
Right. They're things that we were taught that we believe. They could be very limiting beliefs.
Very limiting beliefs, and whether they were taught to us or it was something that we evolved within ourselves over time. Somebody might have said to you when you were a young kid, oh, you're not tall enough. Okay, well, that could create something.
Right.
Or you're not fast enough. Okay, well, then you start growing up and now you're not enough.
Right.
And when you start doing that, for me, I was overcompensating, trying to be everything to everybody, and hence the people-pleasing aspect of becoming a chameleon. I wanted to be whatever anybody else I was around wanted me to be.
Right.
Which, when I started to peel back the layers of myself, peel back the historic events and the patterns and all of those things, underneath I found the core values that I truly resonate with in my life and how I want to shed the rest of that skin, if you will, that doesn't really serve me any longer, to be able to move forward.
Right. And to have that awareness is so important, because that is probably exactly what was attracting these different men to you, is that, you know, you had the people pleasing thing, trying to make everybody happy, figure out, what does this person need right now? What does this person need right now? What do they need from me? What do they need from, and you're constantly adapting, you know, to that other person's, whatever they want, you know, whatever they want or need in the moment. And then to shift that whole perspective and to bring it inward and say, what about me? You know,
and it's so
really
funny,
powerful.
Because you know, growing up, people are like, "Oh, you're selfish, you're controlling, you're kind of bossy," and it's like, but I was always taking that as a negative statement.
Oh,
you're control it, because some people can be.
Absolutely,
and there are chances that I was, but it's that controlling aspect was more. I knew what I wanted and I knew how to go after it. And if I didn't see something being done the way that I believed it was meant to be, controlling or bossy, maybe, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And that's so important to see, you know, to recognize it's not only a pattern or just something we inherited or something we, you know, learned from our parents, that it could happen as simply as or as quickly as someone saying something to you.
Yeah.
And I resonate with that too, because I always wanted to be a writer. When I was young, I was always writing, I was always journaling, and I would always have the teachers say, "Oh, you did really good. I got good grades in it." And then there was a different genre, a different assignment I had to write in college, and then read it to the class. And this one person was like, "Oh, I don't like it. I don't know why I don't like it." So I immediately took on the belief that I can't write that kind of work. You know, I can't do that. Oh, okay. Well, I'm good over here, but not over here. Right. And that was like instantly. And then I just believed it for years until I actually became aware of it.
It's, the awareness, I think, is half the battle.
Yeah, it really is.
You know, like,
it really is.
And getting to that awareness could take 5 days, it could take 6 years, it could take 60 years, depending on what journey, what divine path you're meant to be on.
Yeah. So I believe that, because I believe that, you know, just having the awareness, like you said, that can come from journaling or meditation or all the kinds of things, you know, in your life that we can do for ourselves, our methods of self-care. But for someone who maybe is in the crossroads, is like, okay, so I have this awareness, I'm stuck, I've got these pattern of relationships or failed jobs or all the things that I've tried to do that I've always ended up, excuse me, in the same situation all the time. What do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do at that crossroad?
It's different for everybody, but as I said to start, it's a matter of digging into what your core values and your core beliefs are, and that can sometimes take a bit of time because it's scary in there. You know, we're more afraid of what we do know than what we don't.
Yeah.
Which is so ironic, because it's like, you know what's in there. Well, I don't want to go in there and uncover anything. You know, we swept it under the rug 20 years ago. We don't have to go and clean it out right now.
Right.
But I envision some of these core wounds and these old values that don't serve me, that don't belong to me in that fashion, of like this big bag of bricks.
Yeah.
And it takes time, because you have to, become aware that you've been carrying this bag around for gosh knows how long, and filling it with heavy bricks, and then putting it down and opening up and taking it out brick by brick, examining it and saying, oh, gosh, can I let this go? And really understanding what that experience served for you at that time in your life, and knowing that your life has now moved on.
Yep.
And it's okay to let that part go. Wow. But it takes time. It depends.
It really does, yeah, because it's also the nature of the bricks, right? Not just how many bricks there are, but also it gives some really good insight into, you know, how you got there, like without blaming yourself, you know, without saying, oh, I'm stupid, I did that same relationship over and over again, but to say, oh, well, now that I have this awareness, I know I'll never do it again.
Oh my God, it's me.
Yeah.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
You know, like
exactly.
When people have said that, it's like, at first I would always be like, I don't understand what that means. And you know, right when I published my book, or actually prior to that, I met somebody, and he was going through a bunch of stuff, and I had no right dating at that point in time. I had a lot of healing to do. But he just wasn't around. And I was like, what's your deal? He goes, I'm not available right now. I have a lot going on in my life. And I thought, that is the most amazing statement.
Wow.
I'm not available.
And he had the awareness to say that.
He had the awareness. And so then I thought, can I borrow that? You do whatever you want. And it's interesting because people are like, oh, you're single, things are going great. I'm like, yes, they are. Why are you dating? Oh, I'm not available. I want to ensure that if I'm going to ask somebody to be there for me, that I have the time, the space, and the energy to be there for somebody else. And for the last few years, it just hasn't been the case. But that's what healing, and that's what going through this self-discovery and this understanding of who you really are, this is what it takes. Yeah. If you're fortunate enough to do it with somebody that's supportive and encouraging, amazing.
Right.
But if you're not, it can get lonely, but that loneliness is so worth the feelings that you get when you get to the point where you're like, oh my God, this is what it feels like to fully love yourself.
Right.
How fun.
Right. I know. I think I read one of the reviews of your book too, was that the way you write in your book and your experiences is very raw and radically honest. Raw and radically honest. And that struck me because I was like, if you're not willing to be raw and radically honest with yourself, then you're really not going to get there.
No, you're not, because all you're doing is sugarcoating it.
Yeah.
And it's
right.
It does get raw and it gets really uncomfortable. Yeah. But we have to learn, just as human beings here, we have to learn, we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's when breakthroughs happen.
Right. Because it's very uncomfortable to go through those bricks and look at yourself from all those different angles and
if you
analyze it, right?
If you look at it kind of like, if you look at those bricks as a building, if you will, and then, through the course of examining and all the things, you have breakdowns. You have mini breakdowns, and you fall on the floor and you cry your eyes out and you're all things, you're like, I can't do this anymore. This is terrible. Da, da, da. But I always look at every single, well, now I do. All of the breakdowns that I've ever had have just been a pathway to a new breakthrough, because you have to go through that pain in order to be able to see what's on the other side of that wall.
Right.
That
That's
you've been
so
building for yourself that doesn't serve you anymore. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so important for, I think, people to hear right now that are either watching or listening right now that are at that point, those crossroads, and to know that they're gonna get through it. The breakthrough is there after that other.
It will happen.
Piece.
You just got to do the work.
Right.
Got to do the work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So tell us about your work. You're an alignment coach, and you work with individuals, right?
Yep.
Any particular career path or what?
I have this whole avatar element out there, but no particular career path.
Okay.
Some would think that I would be primarily working with designers, and yes, a couple of my clients are interior designers on the business aspect of things, but the majority of what my clientele is men and women.
Okay, so both men and women.
Somewhere between the ages of, call it 38 or 39 to 65, 70 years old, honestly. And it's a matter, because these types of experiences don't happen at very specific ages in your life. There are telltale time frames, in your late 40s, early 50s as women, where things really do start to change. You might be empty nesting, your body's making shifts here and there. But that happens with men too. And I do a lot of the personal and professional alignment coaching because, as I said earlier, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if your personal life's a little wonky, well, things are going to be a little wonky in your professional life, and vice versa. And it starts with making sure that what it is that you're doing for work, what it is that you're doing for your career choice, if you own the company or the CEO, or you're just an employee and you're the best employee, whatever it may be, it needs to be aligned with what your soul genuinely wants you to be doing.
Okay. So what are some of the things that people come to you for if they say, I just feel like I'm stuck in my career, and you start just unpacking that, and then maybe discover that there's some issues going on in the personal life as well that are not aligned?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
And I had one woman come to me and she said, it sounded a lot like me. She was a bit older than me, but she said, I've been doing this, and, I have a decent relationship with my husband, but I think it could be okay. And I sat back and I said, we're not going to start talking about your business right away. I want to spend the first 2 sessions just understanding who you are, why you are, what it is that you're doing, and I want to know your history, and it's going to get weird, and all of this is confidential, I promise. And when we started going through the challenges that she was having at work were based on a wound that happened when she was 15 years old.
Oh my
and they
gosh.
had nothing to do with each other, but she carried that brick with her for such a long time.
Right.
And once we unpacked that, things started to shift at work,
Oh, I
which meant
imagine
that
they
things
did.
started to
Yeah.
shift at home. And it's
Wow.
just, it's like this domino effect, if you will.
Yeah, totally makes sense, because now she's on that path of self-discovery,
Yeah.
and then everything else in her life would shift to match that new self.
Exactly. And the
Yeah.
cool thing about being able to work with, high achieving individuals in that capacity is that they are often involved with companies and corporations. And when I can work with CEOs, CFOs, people, high achieving entrepreneurs and business owners or managers, they see the value in working with me as a coach on an individual basis. They bring that value back into their companies.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I'm in the process of developing a company culture workshops and sessions that I can do with companies. So the employees' goals can align with the mission of the company, and
Wow.
everybody can really start getting on the same page.
I have to say that is so innovative, because I feel like the experiences that I've had, in corporate culture and is, okay, we're going to determine the corporation. We're going to
Yeah.
determine our mission, vision, values, and then we're going to go out and look for the employees that align with that.
Right.
And that's our goal.
Yep.
But what you're talking about is the opposite. You're saying, here's the employees that are here
Yeah.
and their alignment and where they're landing, and then we're going to see what we can align with in the corporate way.
Well,
Does
and
that
I
make
look
sense?
at it, it does make sense. And I look at it that way because there's some Gallup studies out there that say that 54% of employees are completely disengaged with what they're doing at work.
Oh my gosh.
That's more
That's
than
huge.
half.
Oh yeah.
And so when you take that percentage, it's a matter of, if companies are looking for higher engagement and higher employee retention, we need to go in and understand, why are the employees here in the first place? What is it that's going to make them happier? And it's not just happier, it's what is it about this company that attracted them?
Right.
Aside
Because
from
there's got to be something.
There's
right?
got to be
Yeah.
something. And then
There's
what
gotta be
is it about the way
Right.
that the company functions that we can actually coordinate the desires and the dreams, not maybe even so much the dreams, but the values of those employees. And sometimes it's a matter of just rearranging where people are, I say sitting, but who they may be working with, what kind of projects that they've been assigned to. They may not be aligned with how those people really function properly.
That's amazing.
It-
I mean,
it's-
to make those kinds of changes that seem, might be dramatic if the person has a new boss or something,
Yeah.
but in a sense can be very simple, but yet have really
Yeah, I
breakthrough
try not to go
results.
in and be like, oh, we're going to
Yeah,
change it all.
right.
But it's a matter of being respectful to the company owners, the leaders,
Right.
and the employees, and looking at it as, it's not just a job. It's not just a place where you go to work. It's a community where you spend so much of your time.
yeah.
And there is a culture baked into that community.
Right.
And if you don't use the right ingredients to bake that culture, it's going to fall flat.
Yeah.
It's going to come out burnt. It's not going to, people are going to get burnt out because they'll be overworked. And when you have the opportunity to understand which ingredients, how many, the quality of them, how you need to put it all together, it really starts to change the dynamic of how companies function.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So how do people find you? How do they reach out to you if they're interested in any of this, the coaching or the speaking that you do or your book?
Well, I made my website very easy. It's amandagreaves.com.
There you go. All right.
And on that website, you can find a link to my book, this podcast episode when it's up and
Yes.
running, as well as my coaching and my speaking engagements too.
Yes, and speaking engagements will also be coming up this November. Amanda will be at Voices of the Valley
Yes.
at Apollo Sunrise Center, November 1st and 2nd, 2025. You are going to be featuring your book, The
Yep.
Chameleon Diaries, and talking about your book, and helping anybody too, whether they're an aspiring writer and want to write their own book, their own stories, or just someone who is at that crossroads
Yeah.
of their life and needs that little that nudge to just say, okay, here's something that might help you, that might resonate with you.
Absolutely. I'm very much looking forward to that
That's
as well.
great.
It's going to
So
be
are we.
Great weekend.
Thank you, Amanda. And thank
Yeah.
you for being with us today.
This has
was
been fantastic,
wonderful.
Leah.
This is
Thank
so
you.
much fun.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for watching and listening today here on Rise, Heal, and Grow with Leah M. Hill. And please catch us again next time because we have lots more episodes coming up soon.